So I'm enjoying the project to bring this 4-year-old drone up to date. It came with brushed motors. It's going to wind up with brushless motors, Bugs 3 parts. It's not quite as straightforward as I thought, and I've bought a new tool and learned how to use it on the way, but I'm having fun. This might give you a clue as to some of the twists and turns I'm run into when it comes to mounting motors. So leave it at this and on with the build. So at the end of the last part, part 2, I got to the point where I realised that I needed some sort of rotary tool to cut neat circles through here. I was thinking of mounting the motors on build-up platforms. I just got it mocked up here at the moment. So I was thinking of mounting the motors something like this, though there was a bit of an issue as to exactly how I centre them. So what's happened since then? First of all, I went out to buy a rotary tool kit, and I was thinking of the Dremel 4300, which turned out to be $200. But right beside the Dremel on the shelf was this thing, which was only $50. So $50 versus $200. This thing has a stand, a take-off type thing, so you can either hold it in your hand or have a small head that you have on a cord. So this is what I bought. So I've only had a look at it, unpacked it, but I haven't used it yet. But it should do the job nicely. Is that I had another look at the original motors and the way they were mounted. So this is what came out, and I suddenly realised that this assembly, that's the spindle and the prop goes on there, that is lined up perfectly, and it's also designed to mount on the screw holes there. So I took one of these and took it apart, unscrewed the motor, and then I had a bit of a job pulling the central shaft out. Didn't want to come out easily, it was glued in there. So what I've got now, I can drill out that centered shaft a bit. Then I find I can take the Bugs 3 motor, or the other motor, center it on there, and then the whole thing will sit neatly there, and it's perfectly squared up for when I've got the circular cutout, and it sticks up at about the right amount so that I have a bit of it sticking out of the frame, which is what I want, and use the cutter tool for a perfectly round hole. So I'm making progress. I've just got one issue with this I've got to think through, and that's the way I attach the motor to this bit of plastic. I've got screw holes there that in the original with the Bugs 3, they go into a metal plate and then they come through plastic to hold it all together. When it's on here, I've got to think of some way to get in behind it and to screw attach it. I'm sure I'll get there, but it's a sort of interesting project. No hurry, just take it easy, have a think about it until you come up with a solution you're happy with. So I'm coming to get to grips with my new rotary tool. So it's got a take-off lead, and then it goes down to a pen-like head that's much easier to hold. So I've done some initial cutting, and I'll show you what I've done in a moment. So that's just the basic setup. So I'm still messing around with motor mounts, trying to figure out the best way to go about it. So I started off with using the original mount. So that's the original mount with the motor on it, and there's the mount with the motor taken off. So at first it looked very promising that I could just put this in here, it would slot in, click it in, drill out a bit of a hole so I could get a Bugs 3 motor lined up there, and it looked like plain sailing. Then I discovered that I had to, so I came up with the aluminium mount for the motor. Here's a live motor with the wires on it, and then realised that putting the whole thing together was a bit of a problem. I need to make sure that the plastic underneath the motor, along with the aluminium mount, is thick enough that the screw doesn't stick through to interfere with the workings of the motor, the windings. And that was proving quite difficult. Also a bit hard to get in behind it to put it all together. So what I've come up with next, and I'm now playing with and it seems to be quite good, is this. And what I have here is the arm that broke off the Bug 6 frame I'd used before, and I'd found that I could just by cutting a little bit with the rotary tool, I could line it up so that this just clicks in here, and that mount, I can level that up pretty well, and then when I put the top on, it all clicks together and holds it. And with that mount I can use the original plates, pop a motor that's wiring, and I'll be well on the way. So that's the current plan. So it's taking a little while, but then it always does if you're doing something that wasn't designed for a particular purpose. So on we go. Okay, well that looks about right. I think I've got to a point where I'm pretty well ready to start moving live components across from this little guy here to this frame here. So when it comes to the X8 frame, I've cut out holes for all four motors, and inside I've put in a little plate on legs where the battery can go. So I've jacked it up a little bit so that the 3S battery will fit underneath it, and I'll put the flight control board on top of there. Initially I won't bother with the camera. I'll just get the ESCs, the motors and the flight control board across into the bigger frame, get some props on it, and see how it goes. So this is probably a reasonable phase to stop this part. So onward and upwards, I hope.